Hey everyone, Shoes here. I hope you're keeping well. Back again with another installment of Buried Ireland. We're going to pick up part 2 here of episode 4, Boyne Valley and Moytura. So we're going to get straight into it. You might remember we left off looking at these features the other episode, or the other part, which I reckon were star forts. They just have that shape to them. You see them on other maps, and they really do have these shapes for star forts. In that old Kinsale map that I showed in in the first episode at the beginning, there's a map of the star forts in Kinsale, and they're just kind of grouped together in these odd little shapes. So we had a look, and in the last episode we saw quite a large area that it looked like there could be a big star fort under there. But that area, I think, was more down here. So while there may well have been a big bit of masonry under the ground there, even here you can see like this part. I mean, in the old world, this is the river, but the course of it. But regardless, this area here is actually up here, so it's just over here, and still well within the area of all this devastated masonry. So all this, there's, as we said, there's church on one of these, there's a castle on another one. We looked at the castle is here, Castle Loch on Loch Key. This is Loch Arrow, and the second battle of Moytura happened beside Loch Arrow over here in this plain. And this plain here, we are considering, was there actually maybe some sort of a city even here, a civilization, like all these underground souterrains as they're called, that they occupy all of this area. So all of this area here. Is there more to it? Is there an under the mud massive network? They talk about networks of underground tunnels, like maybe there is a whole underground world underneath the mud, because we saw in episode 1, if you can put a massive star fort on a plain, and if it's relatively flat and everything's flat, we certainly can have things buried under it, no doubt about it. So this is the area anyway of the second battle of Moytura, and we're going to be talking about a battle that happened here in this area here, and we're going to look at a lot of abbeys that are dotted around the place. Abbeys being places where the monks used to write books, and there was like 1,000 years where monks just hung out in abbeys, apparently. But the abbeys are all destroyed, as are all of the castles. So we saw Trim Castle in the early episodes over in the Boyne Valley, but likewise there's a lot of castles over here that are destroyed. So we're going to take a dip into that, and it's all this area here, and a lot of these are castles or abbeys. So the ruins of an Augustinian abbey here, Eru Abbey here, Rathfran Abbey, all destroyed. And these are big buildings. We're going to hop into some of the Moyne. It's completely up to its neck in dirt. We've got some round towers as well in the area. Look at that road there with the walls just going on, big massive walls. So in this area, this is where the Tuatha Dé Danann and the Fomorians squared off for the next leg of their battle. And it's kind of a cool picture there. Where are we? So we don't want to go in the cool picture. So what we're going to do, like where we were looking at there a moment ago now, it was up here. We were up here, there's Loch Key, Castle Island in Loch Key. So these are all the castles in the area, and these are all ruined castles. For the most part, there might be one or two that have been restored, but for the most part, all of these are ruins. These are big structures. Once again, we'll see that they're big levels, big thick walls, 3 meters thick, solid. What happened to them? What managed to destroy them? And why are they up to their neck in mud? We can see here, this is this area. So this is the coast of Ireland. This is in fact this area, all here. So we've got castles dotted everywhere. And some of these castles play a very important role in the stories that we're going to discuss. So before we go any further, we're going to remember our mythology, and we're going to discuss the second battle that took place in these plains, the second battle of Moytura. And what happened is that Nuada essentially got his arm back and took back kingship. So Nuada became the king again of the Tuatha De Danann. Dean Ceacht made an arm for him. A bionic arm. And then the son of Dean Ceacht put the flesh on it, as the story goes. So Bress was deposed. Bress was the Fomorian ruler of the Tuatha De Danann. He was half Fomorian, half Tuatha De Danann. And he was deposed, and he went to raise an army against the Tuatha De Danann. And he went to his father, Elaha, and Elaha did not give his blessing, but Balor did, and Balor agreed to raise an army against the Tuatha De Danann. And the battle that took place was in this plain here. This is the area where it took place. So we have our characters of Tuatha De Danann coming from here over to battle here against the Fomorian threat. So the Fomorians seem to have been coming from this side always as well. So they were always coming from this area. And Balor, as we remember, is up in Tory Island, Balor of the Evil Eye, who will play a major role in this because Lug was his grandson, and Lug was the hero who defeated the Fomorians in this battle which took place here. So we're not going to go too deep into this. We'll see his writing. Here is Lug Lavada, son of Cian of Dean Ceacht. So Cian is the son of Dean Ceacht, and Dean Ceacht is the healer of the Tuatha De Danann, who was healing the Tuatha De Danann during this battle from the Hill of Slain. And actually during this battle, the Fomorians filled the Hill of Slain with stones. You might remember the well and the Hill of Slain. They filled it with stones so that the Tuatha De Danann could not heal the wounded anymore. And there's also a well somewhere, Patrick's Well, in the town of, I think, Mulala, We're going to look at it at a later stage. But there's a well. Healing wells seem to be something that are common to these stories, and St. Patrick has made an appearance at both of the healing wells. So the healing well at Slane and the healing well in Mayo, which we'll discuss later. So healing wells and knowing how to use them seems to have been a talent. So here's Lug Lavada, Lug Longarm, son of Cian, son of Dean Cacht, and of Ethna, daughter of Balor. So Ethna was his mother. Ethnu is the other name for her. Foster son of Taltu, the lady from Teltown, daughter of Taltu, daughter of Magmor, king of Spain. So Taltu is the daughter of Magmor, king of Spain. I hadn't read that part. That's interesting. And of Ioched, the rough son of Duch. So Taltu, this is Taltu's heritage. Ioched, the rough son of Duch, and Magmor, king of Spain. I must look into that a bit more in a bit more detail, because Taltu is the last Firbolg queen. So, as we remember, she was the queen before the Firbolg's last. And we're only familiarising ourselves with the backstory here of what was going on in the area at the time. And we hope you're a bit familiar with the characters now. The Dagda had a house in Glen Etin in the north, and he had to meet a woman in Glen Etin a year from that day for the battle. So this is in the lead up to the battle. There was all sorts of magical spells going on, and all sorts of shimmies being played. You can read that in your own time. The Dagda plays an important role here. He goes in to the Fomorians, to his own father by the looks of it, Elaha, and he has to eat a big bowl of porridge, and then he's full of the porridge, and they're preparing for battle then, and Lug is rallying the troops. So as we saw in the last one, Lug impressed Nuada at Tara. So Lug went to Tara, impressed the Tuatha De Danann, and became the leader of the Tuatha De Danann army to fight against the Fomorians. So they had magic artifacts as well. So the Tuatha De Danann had a lot of magic on their side. The Fomorians seem to have been up against it. And eventually the Tuatha De Danann win. Lug kills Balor. This says here shoots a sling stone, but traditionally it's a spear into the eye, is the story of Balor. And then Bress is found, and as we've said that story before, we've gone into it. So we're going to introduce the Morrigan as well, or Morrigu a bit more. We've spoken about her. So she's the daughter of Ernmas, and we know that Ernmas and Daelbla, they were the progenitors of the Fomorian race and the Tuatha De Danann race. So that Ernmas was the Tuatha De Danann, and I can barely remember myself. I'm pretty sure Ernmas was the Tuatha De Danann, and Daelba was the Fomorian, and they had a daughter, the Morrigu. There's the three ladies. Sometimes it's seen as one Bab, also other times it's three: Bab, Fowla, and is it Morrig? No, I can't remember the third one. Morrigan has a prophecy of the end of the world. Sounds dark. I'm not going to read that though. And then before we jump into the actual map itself, like this is what we're talking about here. Like this is underground. Like if you take away all the mud, these are just buildings. Like if these were above the ground and weren't under the ground, they'd be called a building. But because they're under the ground and they're covered in dirt, they're called souterrains. You know? So this is what we're talking about. These types. This isn't necessarily, I think this could be Nouth or Douth, but this is what we're talking about, and this is what we're seeing in Tara. This is what we're seeing in the Boyne Valley. Um, so the ground of this area is littered with these, absolutely littered with them, all here. So the question that we're posing is going to be, is there essentially a large buried masonry, pretty much city? Is there a city under here, or is there, like, what's under? Like, why is it all buried? You know, I mean, to say a city almost sounds far-fetched, but the tales talk about the destruction, and we know from India, we know from other areas of the world that it's not ridiculous for some reason. It's not ridiculous to think that they could have dumped a load of dirt on top of a whole world, because that's what happened in certain areas, and whether it was from a flood or whether it was from an act of war or weather manipulation. I mean, who knows, like, how it came about, all this mud. Um, but these were the gods, and if they're the stories of their antics, if we speculate that they're true rather than mythical, and if we try and map that onto the landscape, we have an interesting tale that comes together, and the existing story does not explain it in any way, shape, or form. So bear that in mind. And here's more, like, it's just an underground, I mean, this could be a roof. That's just going down into it. But whatever it was, I don't know. But here again, this is just in a field and it's just underground. Just where you go, this could go, sure, who knows how far these little tunnels go. And you see, it's all the same rock. It's all limestone. It's all limestone. Everything's limestone. Limestone, limestone. And limestone is an essential element of concrete. And like, limestone is essentially concrete. It's a very good concrete mix. So, like, I would also be speculating as well. It's a good time to add it. Like, these walls here used to be much bigger blocks, much bigger, because there's so many cases where they're gigantic and then suddenly they're tiny in other places. So I think whatever happened, that these have shattered, and there's no mortar in a lot of these walls as well, which is very odd. Somehow it was almost like they shattered and stayed in their place, and then they mortared them in the cities afterwards. I'm not sure. It's one to look into, actually. Anyway, so we've spoken about Lug. We know who he was. Cian was Lug's father, son of Dean Cacht. Etnu was Lug's mother. Here's just another example of just random masonry. We call them stones, but I think there's a good chance that a lot of this limestone block is actual block. As wild as it sounds, there's just a lot of wild. there's a lot of reasons to think it's true. So, like, this is just another example of limestone just strewn about the place. It's just a tale of destruction. Cruachan, So saying Cruachan and Crowan. The name Cruachan was an important part of government for this area. It's the electoral division of Killala. And Killala is up here. This is Killala. Killala Bay was an important bay where there was at the 1798 Irish rebellion, the Irish Revolution, and there was reinforcements came in at Killala, I think. I can't remember the story. It doesn't all come to me. But also interesting to note that Killala is at the point where the land basically fell off. So this is the part of the land. So this used to be a loch here. So this was a lake. We get it up. So you can see it's not this one. It's the big one, isn't it? And this is the one. So this area is, so here is here. And you can see that all of this is gone. And then also a lot of this is gone. You can see up here. So all of these areas, so this is Tory Island, this is where Balor was from, and there was a tower here where he kept Ethnu, apparently. And Cian came, and they fell in love, and they had Lug Lavada. It was a beautiful tale of love. So that's just an interesting little one. And Killala is here, right? And there's an awful lot of friaries and abbeys. So like this area got a serious hit by the looks of it. And Killala would have been, I suppose, right here, essentially. So Killala was almost on the point of where the land used to be. And this bit stayed. So just here, and it looks like there was a river here that ran along from this old loch, old lake, nice. So this is the spot, and this fell off. Look, there's a serious creature here. But so this bit here, this all fell off, and this bit stayed on, and this fell off. So this was a loch, and this is Loch. Is this Loch Allen? Where are we in terms of? This is the other ones, isn't it? And there. And then you've got, and that one's here. So yeah, we're up around Loch Allen, Loch Key direction. So this is kind of Loch Key, is it? You could be all day mapping these on. This one's worth it. It is. This is Loch Key. So this is the one. So this is actually Loch Allen, I'd say. And oh yeah, no, this is Loch Key, is it? Longford? No. Loch Key is Leitrim. Leitrim. I'd say the Leitrim is more here. We're looking at here. And then behind it is Loch Allen. I think this would be Loch Allen used to go. So this Loch Allen, this used to be much bigger. Whatever it was, it used to be way, way bigger. And it used to have a basin here. Hmm. We're not going to investigate that too much because we could be mapping things from old maps to new maps all day long. But anyway, that's that area. And we're going to start to have a look at some of these. We're going to start where the battle was. And it was in this area here. And we're going to look at some abbeys. And once again, the abbeys, we've got to remember, like, this is a huge structure. This is really, really big. Look at this masonry here. Graveyard. Absolutely fine, fine finish. Look at these here. It's really, really detailed stuff. You know. Look at these chaps here. Bit of a pub fella. Was this added later? Was this original? Doesn't really matter. And you've got these, like the Antiquitech style, in the ground here. You know, so this is all. These are just the tops of something. Canal system running by it. More low down work, fine finish stuff. Look at these hairy little dudes, feathery fellas. But just absolutely, you know, gigantic, right? Monks apparently were hanging out here, just hanging out, writing manuscripts. So that's Straight Abbey, okay? Which is, you know, I might add, where does it sit? But just like in some just random middle of nowhere location. Peter and Paul, church beside it then as well, you know, just in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. So we're gonna pop back up again, and once again, so these are on the edge of the battlefield, okay? So you'd imagine that you're like these towns, major towns seem to be here, but whatever, we don't quite know what was happening in here. Everything here is destroyed, but it's still got some above ground. Eru Abbey on this lake, on this loch, you know, Eru Abbey. I mean, once again, you know, it's like just a gigantic limestone building. Look at it inside here, just huge, all filled up with dirt. On the lake. So once again, like these are on the lake. Like, what were these related to? And the lake, what was that? What was that? What was going on in the lakes? You know, these lakes had islands. I mean, I'm sure I could bring back that old map there. We could have a look, but we're not going to. We'll look at some abbeys. But there was a lot of islands on the lakes. That's just Eru Abbey, completely destroyed. Mayo Abbey. Let's have a look at Mayo Abbey. Photos. Just again, just look, like this is nicely finished. This, you know, there's no randomers just throwing this up like. And these are all over the country, you know, just these massive buildings. And I know they say that the English did it, and Cromwell did it, and time did it. But we're just investigating an alternative story, trying to solve some of the riddles as we're going along too. This undulating up and down hillside. Look at that. You know, what was on these then? What are these? You know, are these the remains of giant trees? Are these piles of waste from mining? Is this the lake that was dumped out from here over to here? Is it the roots of trees? Is it the roots of something else? Is it actually a massive building that has a lot of stuff dumped on top of it? Could be any of them. Look at this, just big graveyard. And like, remember now again, all of this is 6 to 10 to 12 plus feet of mud. So all of these, at the time that this was built, like these all go down into the ground. You can see them in some graveyards, you can't in others. We might see examples as we go on, but I'm not going to pull one out right now. But graveyards are just interesting. Look, it's just Celtic crosses then. You know, what are the Celtic crosses? So that's Mayo Abbey, so that's another abbey along here. I'd be thinking that all these places used to be functioning, you know, and they were destroyed. This is Balanci Abbey. This is close to Castlebar. So once again, you can see it goes down, you know, and like they're quite unassuming at the back, and then or at the front or at the side, and then like here you can see that, look, this is all covered over. They make it look like a little monument. They do this a lot. It's all covered with stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a monument. But then you see things like this here, and you're like, whoa, it looked like a little church, but now this is next level Camelot kind of stuff. Really is. And that's serious piece of work. It's just a devastation. A lot of mud in there, there's a lot of grass again. It's all up to the level, you know. We've seen the graveyard already. And like you could just go on all day with these places, you know. It's almost like each one blows your mind. Look at this here then. Like a little, we'll probably call this, he is not here. Like what is this? This is some underground crypt. A couple of gigantic stones. Like what are they? Like they're sitting there. Like are they pieces of wood that have petrified, and they're the, like Wise Up says, and they're just sitting up out of the ground. That's what they're doing. Maybe. So like that Ballintubber, like you see that there, you know. Look at the size of these blocks. Like this is a serious piece of work. To put up these abbeys, I don't know if I don't think it's possible in the way that they say that it was. I just can't see how you do it. So Ballintubber, we're not going to jump too far down into the maps. We are going to, we were over here. We will, it's this one here, Straight Abbey. We had a look at that. We looked at that. This is Augustine. Oh yes, this is a lovely one. So here's another ruined abbey. You know, look at this. Clearly that's buried to a height. Have a look at the finish on this. Look at this. It's just majestic. It's absolutely. And this here. I mean, like, if you actually visit one of these places, you see, literally. I was at one of these abbeys in Muckross in Killarney, and my mind was blown. Like, I think there's a few examples of this one, but there's some just big, huge concrete boxes. This here, like all of these are all the old railings as well. Like all of this stuff is the old stuff. That's why I think like how sharp these angles are. Like that's not 1,000 years old, do you know? Look at this. Like this isn't lasting 1,000 years. Um, Look at this. All buried, destroyed, obliterated. This is an interesting one because it's in the middle of the town, which is unusual. You see most of them outside of the towns, but this one is in the town. But it's just obliterated. This is in the town of Balanci, just on the river. I'll have a look at this one. Probably a star. They're all stars. We drop onto the road just for the crack of this one. Have a quick look. We don't want to waste too much time, but I think it's nice to get a bit of a church beside it. So there's a big badass church, which are everywhere as well, by the way. Every town has something serious. Like look at these points here. Look at all the antiquity here. And then you've got this, and this is the ruined abbey then beside it. So the abbey is destroyed. It's got the same kind of wall as the church. It's probably built from the same kind of stone as the church. So they were part, in my mind, it makes sense to me that they were part of the same timeline. And that for some reason this was destroyed and this wasn't. And you can see these all have the tech on them, like this is by the river. So once again, let's remember our river theory of take the water down, take all that level down, this level down, all 6 feet. Everything comes down 6 feet. Everything. These walls are double the height that they actually are. And this has steps up to it from down below. So you can access. So this is, you can walk down here, is what I'd be thinking. You can walk, and there's tunnels that come from down below that bring you up into here. And that the levels, just the way the cities they were, it was almost like to get into a city you had to come up through the waterways. It was like a defensive thing maybe. Just one to consider. So this is Balanci, just random Balanci. Ruins of an Augustinian abbey in the middle of the town. Right, we're going to check out one or two more. So I'm wondering, like, the battles that were taking place, were these buildings around during those battles, is my question. You know, possibly. Just this here. Rosserk. Look at this, like this is all along the river or the canal. You could map on the old map that, see what it looked like. But once again, look at this place, gigantic. And completely destroyed. You know, look at these windows, this is concrete here, this is concrete. Like, I mean, to consider, and this is in the middle of a field in a random, and these are all over the place in Ireland. And look at the detail, like you could rock up, you could drive up some random back road and you could wander into one of these and you could see this kind of majesty in the windows and just It's just a farmer's field, and there's an old graveyard in there, and there's a couple of weird gravestones around the place in random places, like here. Like, what's that doing in there? And then like that's a chimney. It looks kind of like the chimneys do in some of the old luxury mansions, like Ashford Castle now would have chimneys that's similar to that kind of shape. This weird, um, almost like a diamond look to it. And this is all undulating here, so it's all covered. Look quite sharp there on the lines, you know. Um, they're saying that's 1440. Maybe it is 1440. Like I don't know where they built when maybe they were built when they were built. I'm wondering when they were destroyed and who was around when they were destroyed. That's my question. So look at this. I mean, it's just a gigantic. And look where it is. We're gonna drop down into this one. Rossork, remains of a friary founded in 1440. So this is near Killala. Okay, on the bank of a muddy lake. It's not even a lake. It's a, I don't even know what that is. Abbey Moy well. So I mean, looking under the ground here as well. I mean, what can we see? Like the shapes. Like a lot of the time, you see cathedrals sitting on top of star forts, and they would have like a power generation type of thing in the middle, and then water would run under them. Like cathedrals all have water under them. So I mean, like you're looking here, and like there's just shapes. You really can't make it out, but you've got to wonder what is under the ground there. And we'll just have a quick. Can we drop in any bit? Can I drop a guy over there? Can. Nice. Like that's just so cool. And like look at it, it's just absolutely just sitting there. So like I mean you're looking here, this is all mud and field, but imagine stripping this back, what is under here. And in order to get an idea, I think like to see the flatness of the land, I think is a great giveaway. I really think that it's a great clue. Get out to seeing where stuff is. I mean, this is all so flat, all this area, you know. And you've got shapes, all odd shapes. I mean, like these are typically walls, you know. And when you have these shapes in the land, they're typically walls of some sort. So that's Rossork Friary, just randomly sitting there. Now there's a holy well there. I haven't looked into that holy well, but it's closed. Kalala. So that's close to Killala, where a piece of land disappeared. And we will have a quick look. Time 44. Trying to keep them under an hour. Have a quick look here. So this area was here. This is where we were looking. So this is it. You can't really see anything here. This was Killala. Killala was here. So that was, there was also a river running off this direction from, so it looks like this lake was over. So whatever this lake is, what lake is that? Loch Con. That's the one with Ruined Abbey on it. So this here is Loch Con with Ruined Abbey on it. So all the lakes seem to have infrastructure on them. We looked over here, and we saw that they all have infrastructure on them as well. All the ones that used to be here. These lakes here. So all the lakes seem to have infrastructure, either castles. We saw there's loads of castles knocking around. We've got a couple of castles here actually, which I'll pull up. Search my places. And we find an old castle or two. Ballyfarnan, yeah, there we go. Victoria Island, Boyle Abbey, Loch Dean. Oh yeah. Why don't we take a trip down to Loch Dean? Would we? Would that be worth the trip? Castle Island, Loch Key. So we've been over there. We've had a look at a couple of abbeys. Let's go to Loch Dean and have a look at Loch Dean, because Loch Dean is an interesting one. So it's a bit off the beaten track of what we're talking about, but it's not really. But it's more of an aside of a bit of buried. So Loch Dean is a little bit down the road from where we are. Just let this load up. So Balanci Abbey, we were over there and we're over here. It's a graveyard there. Mayo Abbey, we had a look at that too. So we're just down here in Loch Dean. So we're thinking that this area was heavily, in our minds we're like, there was no real mud here and there was a lot of masonry. And Loch Dean has a river that runs into it. The Gwala, I think, eventually runs into it. And that's how I came across it. But Loch Dean, what it is a bog lake is what it is. So it's just a lake that is a bog. And I just found it very interesting when I looked at the structure, because the shape of it, and I'm looking at bogs at the moment, and I'm wondering, right, bogs, could there be something under the bogs? Because there just seems, just such odd shapes like the golf courses, there's just something unusual under them. So I'm looking at here and you're seeing all of these lines coming down, going across. I suppose that's all the bog. But here, the lines are quite straight and sharp. So I was thinking to myself that could there be something under here in Loch Dean? I'm looking at it again and I'm wondering. I felt I saw more the first time. Oh yes, I saw these as well. We've got this kind of random shapes. It's just so Like you naturally follow the patterns of the land. Like along here, there's a likelihood is that this was a wall. So generally where paths develop in bogs and forests, they develop on the places where the old walls used to stand because it's solid. You'll take it. So like here now, so this is Loch Dean anyway. Impressive or not, um, I'm less impressed with it now this time round, I must say. I might have to have a look at it again. I'm more impressed with some of the other ones. I just want to get a look to see the land. Is it straight or is it? I thought that there was a bit of a bump, but it seems like it's very straight. Let me see it from this side. Because I feel that's when you kind of get a bit of a giveaway where it's either a bit of a rise, but not too much of a rise. I can't really see much there now, to be honest. I mean, here maybe, like, is that a rise there? But is that just the bog? It's being eaten away, you know? But like you can see here, like you could have something. It seems that yes, there is a bit of a rise. I can't see it properly, but even along here, it seems like there's a bit of a drop. You know, just that like this is a big, long, straight. Like if you go and look at that, it's almost like a Nazca line kind of a setup. You know, this here. Is it raised up? It seems like it's raised up. I don't know. Is it just the way I'm looking at it? But anyway, Loch Dean. What was going on in Loch Dean? There's a lot of little islands in there as well. Once again, so a lot of those islands in other places have tended to have masonry and buildings on them. Doesn't seem to be any in Loch Dean. That's pretty close there now, isn't it? Now that I'm in that close, I might just hang out here for a moment. Like that's definitely a slope down there, 100%. That's sloping down. So it's almost like a platform. Like, is this the bog? This is certainly bog. This is bog, so it's a lake in a bog, is what it is. So they're saying that this is a bog, and that's the lake in a bog. So if you had a lake in a bog, why would a lake form in the middle of a bog? Is it because that there's a basin in here that is holding the water more so, a star basin that we can see? You know, I mean, I'm back again now, looking at it, thinking, but that did take that chunk out there. Difficult one, anyway. Worth considering, just considering the shapes of it, and how I came across it was through this river that was important to St. Patrick. And there is quite a cool story about that. Why do I have that? What's going on in Corna? Oh yes, this was interesting, wasn't it? So if you imagine as well, like take the idea now that airports and stuff like that used to just be dug back out. So like I'm imagining this land without dirt, it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, look at these here. Look at these angles. It's all, and these are all walls, you know. There's generally walls running around all these areas. So like maybe they're not all walls, but generally where the patterns they follow the walkways follow the walls generally. So we're going to finish up. Look at these here, like flaying out Like these are all walls here. I would wager to say that these are all walls. I just based on I know that these are walls. And this here, like that one running that way, and this shape here, it's just all so triangular and star shaped like the star forts. Like the star forts that we did look at in the first video, you know. I'm gonna bring up a star fort or two just before we finish. And I'm gonna bring up this one because this is what I'm thinking in my mind when I'm looking at these. This is what I'm thinking. Like, you know, that the bog is on top of this and that the water is in here and that this is all underneath it and the surrounding land potentially has like star. Like that's what I'm thinking when I think of all the land being like, if you imagine that the land, like these were raised up on platforms most of the time. So the land was higher. These were higher than the land generally. And then the land came up to meet them, you know? So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what's buried under the ground, because what is buried under the ground is buried under the ground. And you've got to wonder, like when you see these shapes, when you see this in the countryside, and then you hear the tales of the wars of the gods in this area, and you see this gigantic infrastructure, you've got to ask the question of, you know, is there something under the ground here, and was there more going on than I know about, or than I thought? And there's an awful lot of mud all over this beautiful green island, and we're gonna dive into a bit more of it in the next episode, and we're gonna carry on, and we're gonna look at. So Cruachan was this area here. We're going to carry on where we were, and we're going to continue looking at this area, and we're going to say part 3 of episode 4 is coming next. Cruachan. Were Cruachan related to star forts? Crone. There's also some interesting etymology with the word crone, or crow, but we're going to save that for another day. So, hope you enjoyed. This has been Shoes for This Irish Life. We're going to be back with part 3 of episode 4 of Boyne Valley and Moytora. See you then. Enjoy. Think good thoughts.